Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. The video is a continuation of the Count of Monte Cristo, chapters 4-7. Chapter 4, the wedding party. In this chapter, there was the betrothal festival of Edmond Dantes and Mercedes. Edmond and Mercedes were dancing, smiling, were full of joy and wanted everyone around to be happy. A dinner had been served and festivities were in full swung. Dantes could hardly believe that in just over an hour he would be taking his beautiful bride into the town hall where they would be married by the mayor of Marseilles. When the dancing stopped, Mercedes reminded Dantes that it was time to set out for the town hall. The guests cheered and prepared to follow the bridal couple in a procession. Suddenly, they all stood still and listened. They could hear the sound of soldiers marching. The noise came nearer and a group of soldiers turned into the hotel. There was a knocking on the door. The door opened and the officer in command of the soldiers stood outside and they commanded Edmond Dantes to come out. Then they told Dantes that they have come there to arrest him. Everyone were shocked and astonished and exclaimed why they had to arrest Edmond Dantes. The guests looked at each other in amazement. It could not be true that Dantes was being arrested. Mercedes, Monsieur Morel and Dantes' old father all rushed forward to try to prevent the soldiers from taking Edmond away. The officer turned to them and begged them to be calm. Then he said to the old man in a kind manner that it's probably something about the papers of the Pharaoh. And soon Edmond Dantes was taken off by the soldiers. Mercedes cried sadly as he was taken away. And so Dantes replied that he shall see her again in this afternoon and the wedding will not be delayed further. Chapter 5. Another wedding. At the same time as the betrothal feast of Edmond and Mercedes came to such an unhappy ending, another betrothal feast was taking place in Marseilles, but this feast was not among the sailors and soldiers, it was among the aristocrats of the town. Monsieur de Villefort, the assistant state prosecutor, who was very young, was to be married to Reine, the daughter of Marquis. The people at this party were all sworn enemies of Napoleon Bonaparte. During his reign, they had been abroad plotting and working for his downfall. Now they had returned to France and held positions of importance under the new king, Louis VIII. Young Villefort was the son of Bonapartist. At the time of French Revolution, his father had given up his noble name of Noirtier de Villefort and had changed it simply to Noirtier. He later became a staunch supporter of Napoleon. The son, however, had disowned his father and changed his own name back to de Villefort. He was a royalist holding the position of assistant state prosecutor. His father, Monsieur Noirtier, still lived in Paris. In the middle of this second party, a servant entered the room. He handed a note to the assistant state prosecutor and whispered a few words in his ears. And immediately de Villefort gave the letter to Reine, his bride-to-be, and he was set off outside. The handed-over letter read these words: The state prosecutor is informed that Edmond Dantes, mate of the ship Pharaoh, arrived at Marseilles that morning after having touched the island of Elba, has been given a letter from Napoleon addressed to the Bonapartist committee in Paris. If he is arrested, this letter will be found either on him or at his father's house or in his cabin on the Pharaoh. Having read the letter, Rain exclaimed to the state prosecutor that this was their wedding day, and hence she does not want to spoil the day, and so Rain whispered to Wilford to be merciful upon the criminal, and Wilford walked to her side and placed a hand upon her shoulder, and he replied, "For your sake I'll try to be merciful, but if these charges against this man are true, then they must definitely give him a permission to cut off his head." Hearing this, Rain turned pale away and she shivered. Chapter 6. The trap closes. In this chapter, Wilford goes quickly to the office in the law courts. He arrived there and asked the prisoner to bring Dantes for the questionnaire session, and he explained the cause for his imprisonment. Dantes started explaining honestly what had happened on that day. He told the young state prosecutor Captain Leclerc had given him a package to take to Elba, and that was a package he had taken, and that is the reason that the ship has stopped or delayed in the island of Elba. He also informed the assistant state prosecutor that everywhere the last request of a dying man is sacred, but with a sailor the last request of a superior is a command which he has to obey, and that is the reason he had made ashore in the Elba with Captain Leclerc's package. And he also informed him that since he was a captain and he had ordered to do that work, Dantes has taken up the work. Now, D. Wilford started reading the letter to himself, and he was struck by a thunderbolt because the letter was addressed to his father. He opened it hastily and read it, and it told the plan of the Napoleon Bonaparte to leave the island of Elba with 3 armed ships. And it was also mentioned that Napoleon's friends in Paris were to expect him to land in France very soon. Wilford trembled, and if anyone knew that such a letter had been addressed to his father, he, the assistant state prosecutor, would not only lose his job, but might end up as a prisoner in the dead Chiadov. What a good fortune that the state prosecutor was out of the Marseilles, and that he had been asked to question Dantes instead. So now the assistant state prosecutor is having a great relief that he had gone through the letter so that the main evidence could be destroyed by him, and this was his plan. So in front of Dantes, he has spoiled the letter by converting into a little pile of ashes, then thrown away through the window, and also informed Dantes that he would be relieved soon. Poor Dantes believes the young Wilford, but Wilford feels good that he has destroyed the letter because his father was in danger. Now, he also informed Dantes that he would be kept until evening in the law courts, and also informed him that he should not breathe a word of the letter to anybody else. Dantes did not know the contents of the letter, but he knew that it was addressed to Monsieur Noirtier. Wilford could not risk setting him free now, so he decided on another plan. Dantes must be kept out of the way, and he, Wilford, would use the information in the letter to benefit himself. With this letter, which might have ruined him, So he takes him to himself, and with a smile on his face, he hurried back to his wedding feast. Chapter 7. The 100 Days. Dantes was taken away by the police. Instead of being set free, he was pushed into the cold, dingy room of CHAPTER-4. Dantes was rushed into the prison, down a flight of stairs and into a dark cell. He cried terribly. He thought of Mercedes waiting anxiously for his return. So he turned to the jailer and asked him help, that to inform Mercedes that he would be soon coming to meet her. But no one had helped him. All were in vain. Dantes pleaded and threatened. He had for an answer the clanging of the cell door and the returning of the key in the lock. While Dantes was safely locked away in CHAPTER-4, Villefort hurried to Paris to warn King Louis VIII of Napoleon's plan to land in France. When he was with the king, news arrived that Napoleon had already landed on south coast. During his stay in Paris, Villefort had a visit from his Bonapartist father, Monte. The assistant state prosecutor was not at all pleased to see the old gentleman. He hoped that no one had seen Monsieur Noirtier enter his hotel, for he did not wish to be connected with the Bonapartists in any way. He wanted Noirtier to leave as soon as possible. He told his father that all Bonapartists were being arrested and imprisoned. He advised his father to go into hiding, for if he stayed in Paris, he might be caught and put to death. His father looked at him, an expression of gratitude on his face, and thanked his son for his timely help. Villefort's warning did not help the king. He was forced to flee from France. Napoleon reached Paris once again as the ruler of the country. As soon as Napoleon was in power, Monsieur Morel, the ship owner, applied for Dantes to be released from prison. Dantes was imprisoned for being a Bonapartist agent. But this was not to be. Villefort was once again in Marseilles. Hence, all other royalists were removed from their post. Some were put into prison and some were executed. But this did not happen to Villefort. His father had saved him. The state prosecutor, Villefort's superior, was also a royalist. He was sent to prison and was never seen again, and Villefort took his place. The assistant state prosecutor became now the state prosecutor. Villefort knew that if Dantes was set free, then all his treachery would be revealed. So he took care to see that the young man remained a prisoner in CHAPTER-4. Whenever Monsieur Morel came to ask for Dantes' freedom, Villefort made promises but did nothing. Villefort was not only the man who feared Dantes' release. Danglars had also watched and feared for the release of Dantes. So he left France and went to live in Spain. Fernand Mondego spent all his time with Mercedes, trying to win her love. He neither knew nor cared what had become to Dantes. He could think only of the day when Mercedes might consent to be his wife. Very soon, as a soldier, he was called to fight for Napoleon. When he said goodbye to Mercedes, she was very sad to be alone in the world. Fernand was happy, as so long as Dantes did not return, Mercedes might one day be his wife. Now Napoleon remained in power for 100 days. Then he was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo. As Villefort had hoped, Louis VIII returned to the throne of France. Monsieur Morel came no more to ask Dantes' release. All hope was lost. Dantes' old father knew that he would never see his son again. His money was finished, and scraps of food which he had been able to beg were gone. He had no spirit, no wish to go on living. Soon after Napoleon's downfall, he died of hunger in the arms of Mercedes, the girl who should have been his son's wife. With all these changes, 100 days went off in the prison for Edmond Dantes in the dingy CHAPTER cell. Poor Dantes was unaware of the passing of time, which had been a very long gap between him and Mercedes. Thank you.